Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. That's right, the video game show that is not hosted by an annoying clickbaiter. We only talk about video games, the business of video games, and cover topics that mainstream YouTubers don't cover. Now, with that said, do me a favor. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and now let's get ready for the show. On today's episode... Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. Today I wanted to expand on the pressures of the video game industry and what they're receiving as far as the ESG, right? Another participant, right? Another entity that's putting a lot of pressures on these companies is the WEF, right? For those of you who don't know what that is, right? The WEF or the WEF is really the World Economic Forum. Right? And it's an international, non-governmental, this is very important, non-governmental and lobbying organization, right? So it's lobbyers, these gumsuckers that are putting these pressures on these companies. And I wrote an essay that I gathered information and I used the Grammarly AI to kind of package it together. And, that's how I'm putting together a lot of these scripts, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's up in the community page. And this is what this video is based on, right? And let me get to the substance of this real quick. In a surprising turn of events, the World Economic Forum, WEF, has made substantial strides in reshaping the gaming industry through the implementation of environmental, social, and government standards, or the ESG, the much hated ESG by a lot of independent gamers. As central banking becomes increasingly intertwined with the push for the ESG principles, video game and media companies find themselves at the forefront of this evolving landscape. The evolution seems to come at a high price, though, let me tell you. It's self-censorship and sometimes or forced ideologies onto employees, specifically forcing those in creative roles in the video game and movie industry. The WEF's involvement in gaming sphere stems from recognition that they know that the industry has a vast cultural influence, especially on the younger demographic. So leveraging this, the central banks have been exploring ways to incentivize the ESG practices within these companies, that, as they put it, right? Because they know they can instigate, for example, some sort of social change. Through their research, they have known this for years now. But this influence that they want to put in is really heavy-handed. It's not something that is just voluntary, as they put it, right? And that's what I want to explore in these videos, right? And it's hypocritical, because a lot of these ideologies that they push on these companies, they're, the companies themselves will take the money and put them in, but they'll leave them out of games that are shipped to China, for example, or maybe the Middle East or more conservative countries. So it's all about the money. It's not so much about the change. And it's in both sections, right? The hypocrisy of some of these AAA companies of doing this, and also the disingenuous nature on how they want to implement this on companies where they hold leverage. Right? ESG is a framework that's used to evaluate a company's societal impact, right? And it has gained prominence, a lot of prominence, in video games and media companies. It translates into promoting environmentally friendly practices, diverse and inclusive content, and ethical decision-making in game development and corporate governance. Now, those sound as great things, right? Until it's forced on you. Right? When it's not a choice, right? If you want to make a game about Vikings and they tell you that you have to include more Mexicans, you can see where the problems can arise, right? The implementation, even though it sounds voluntary, it's all but that. They control the funding, and any creative independence from that is being pushed that can have severe consequences, right? Because it's easier to secure another programmer than it is to secure more money for your game, right? If you have one programmer there that's not towing the line, well, you know what's going to happen, right? It's easier to find another programmer to find financing
So that's when you see a lot of these programmers leave, and they'll, make up excuses why they left, but that's sometimes a real reason. The central banking's role in enforcing the ESG principles upon gaming and media companies is a paradigm shift. Didn't used to happen before. Why do we have to enforce rules on art? Have you ever thought about that? Is that freedom? Is that what we think of when we think of Western values? How is it different than artists being censored in totalitarian dictatorships? And thinking the wrong artistic idea can come with a financial penalty. Does that sound like freedom to you? It doesn't. It marks an attempt to align the sector's growth with sustainability goals, leveraging financial policies to nudge the companies towards ESG compliance. And when I say nudge, I really mean the sharp blade of a sword, because those economic penalties and reputational damage, right, can be detrimental to a company, right? You don't want to be the artist that they label against the environment, right? Or that you are for social injustice because you don't want to implement these ideologies, right? You don't want to put Mexicans in your Viking game centered in Scandinavia. Well, you're a racist, right? It doesn't matter if your historical accuracy is off the charts. That's not the point here. The point is that you do what we say when we say it, right? And as you can imagine, this has sparked a heated debate in the industry. While some applaud the goals of the ESG principles, right, a lot of them are pushing back against the creative freedoms that are being taken away from a lot of these programmers. Again, let's ask ourselves, why does art need to be regulated? Think about that. Does that sound like a free country? Do those sound like Western values, or does that sound like a socialist totalitarian dictatorship, right? This is the problem when you run into these issues, when you're forcing free people to do things against their will, and forcing specifically artists to do things that they don't want to do, right? Video game developers and media companies are now faced with a task of reevaluating operational practices, not only because of this, right? They do want to reduce their carbon footprint. They want to look at diversity, right? If they're doing anything wrong, they want to do this all on their own, but they don't want to be forced to do it in cases where maybe it's not the best thing to do for the game or for the company, right? Maybe they don't have the economical power to do whatever they're going to do, and it's not worth it to get this loan to increase, for example, the overhead of your company might make you broke, right? So there's a lot of ramifications to a business of just implementing regulations that are not governmental. Remember, this is a lobbying entity that wants to enforce and regulate these principles on, free companies in Western nations. While the gaming industry has made significant strides in recent years towards diversity, inclusivity, and environmental consciousness, this collaboration with the central bank, with central banking and the WEF, adds a new layer of forced expectations. Right? Doing the wrong thing in principle can be seen by others within the WEF club to be detrimental, right? And then your reputation suffers. And as these conversations continue around the ESG and gaming, industry stakeholders, regulators, gamers themselves play an integral role in shaping the trajectory of this transformation, the degree of which undoubtedly is going to change gaming for a long time for some companies. The evolution of the ESG standards in gaming is not merely an industry trend, but a pivotal moment for some companies and in the sector's future. Now, guys, there's a positive future for a lot of gaming out there, but when it comes to this forced ideologies on independent gamers, it seems like a dark cloud. Do you see any of these companies? Do you see the WEF actually funding a remake of Duke Nukem: A Time to Kill from 1998? Probably not. And that's where this plan just goes really south. Guys, thank you for joining me. Thank you for talking about the subject here, because it is really important to the gaming industry, and you guys should be aware about it. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Did you subscribe? Did you hit the like button? What the hell are you waiting for?